Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Next Deal podcast. As always, we are here to help you guys find your next deal. Remember to like, subscribe, follow, give us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify if you're enjoying the podcast to help us get the word out there. I'm your host, Justin Dossie, and as always, I'm joined by our co-host, Vince Hall. And today we're joined by a very special guest and our good friend, Paul DeCampo. Paul DeCampo has been involved in real estate for 7 years, has done over 20 deals, including mobile home flips, land deals, and Paul is also the owner at Omnidrip, which we're going to get into and talk about today, where they specialize in follow-up for real estate investors, which is one of the main reasons real estate investors fail, is they're not following up properly or consistently, and we've talked about that multiple times. Paul is also our copywriter here at Ballpoint Marketing and Call Porter and has worked with us for about 2.5, 3 years, somewhere around there. I don't remember the exact date, but is a great person to know. So, Paul, Vince, thank you for showing up today and being on here. How are you guys doing?
Doing great.
Fantastic. Can't wait to get into this conversation with Paul.
I'm going to make the skeleton dance here a little bit because I've watched your previous podcasts and, there's these guys coming in with 2,000 transactions, another guy with 20 years. And here's little old Paul with 7 years and 20 deals. It's like, what the hell's going on here? So I'm not an operator. I'm not, I'll make that skeleton dance. I'm not an operator today. I think I fill out your form and you said, what am I most interested in or involved? It's more of lending, private lending today. But when I started, I was on the ground, door knocking foreclosures. I actually have a story in my email in my email list if people subscribe about how I got chased down by gangbangers in Pomona, California. True story.
Okay. We'll need to hit that story because I've been chased around with an aluminum bat. So, we
can hit that story definitely. And so I started off early on as like everybody jumping in with biggerpockets.com. Rich Dad Poor Dad was kind of the window that opened that rabbit hole up, and then from there just hit the ground with direct mail, with door knocking, cold calling, all that stuff, trying to wholesale, trying to flip. Long story short, condensing those 7 years into a little 2-minute spiel here, but then I shifted into mobile homes and land, which I found a lot more success with. And in the middle of all that, I was also copywriting. Investor Care was one of my first clients. I was writing for them, for Trevor Mock, and it's kind of fell into that rabbit hole too. So I started learning that, applying some of that stuff into my mobile home and land flipping business. Some other clients came along, land developers, other vendors, coaches, doing little things for them. And so, I'm here now I have this company, Omnidrip, where we build out copy-driven drip sequences into their CRM, into investor CRM. So,
yeah,
that's awesome.
No, and that's it's funny, like doing 20 deals in over 7 years. Like I feel very similar because I've been doing this for almost 2 years now, and as an actual investor, but I've gotten a little more active, and it was like the first year I was like, cool, we got 8 deals done. Sweet. Second year, I think we got like 30 or 40 done, something like that. But I think there's a lot of really, you've learned a lot from those deals and transactions you've done. But I have also seen like some of the advice that we've gotten from you show up from those with how we're presenting new products or changing the copy on products and things like that. That's kind of helped through that process. So regardless if you've done 1 deal or 2,000, like it doesn't matter. Like it's all about what you want and what you're working towards. But we've worked with you is about 3 years, something like that. Maybe a little bit more. I'm horrible with time.
Probably 2 years, probably officially 2 years. Yeah.
Okay. 2 years.
Because Paul and I came around nearly the same time. I remember meeting him. Yeah.
Got it. That makes sense. I'm horrible with timing on that stuff, but and there's a reason you do Omnidrip is you're very good at what you do, and that's something that we have found is you have a very unique way of talking to people, of presenting ideas in your follow-ups and your emails and text messages and stuff like that. So to kind of kick us off, could you just talk a little bit about like what your philosophy is when you are setting up drip campaigns or follow-up emails and communicating to people, because I think it's a little bit different than I've seen other people do it, and I've seen a lot of success come from it. So kind of curious like how your thought process works on that, and just kind of kick it off chatting through that.
Yeah, so I that's kind of hard to, it's always hard to unravel, like, okay, what's my philosophy, and wrap it up into like 5 minutes and 10 minutes. So
sure. Well, hey, we've got as much time as you want.
I'm going to start with like the 10,000 foot view. And the principle for me is relationship and credibility. So, that we've talked about for Ballpoint. We've talked about, what's the, like, overall, what are we measuring? And a lot of people, I think, with emails, they get confused, especially with email marketing. They get confused as to, like, I see a lot of advice of, oh, let's just take our best email and like toss it to our drip sequence and see what it goes. I have never seen the same email have the same results more than once. So, and the reason why is because when it comes to email marketing, when it comes to marketing in general, the relationship is more drives the results rather than, that one email, that one text message. And a lot of people ask that. It's like, well, what like one text message would you say works the best? And like, I don't have that data. For one, I don't have that data because there's just not, there's not enough significantly statistic data to give me that decision. But also the relationship matters more than that. And so when I'm building out drip sequence for you guys, for investors, it's about the credibility up front. Like, I'm trying to build up credibility. So that means, like, my ideal client as an investor would be somebody who does have a web presence, who does have reviews. That I can do a lot with that. If the guy already has a web presence, I can do quite a bit with that. We can plug stuff in. We can build his trust, because it's about trust. That is the biggest decision when it comes to buying something or selling something to somebody. It's that trust factor. I look at it as like a gauge. Like, if they have a gauge, it's all the way at the bottom when you first meet them, and then you have to build it up until you actually get to their decision. Each person has their own trust factor. You have like the hyper buyers or hyper sellers that will buy anything or click on anything. But the majority of the population, you have to build that trust with them. So that's number one, is I'm trying to build up trust when it comes to these sequences. It's not just about sell. That's important, of course. But what I've seen is it's pretty random when somebody actually gets a response. So I jump into investor CRM quite a bit, looking at the deals and how they won that deal. And it's kind of random. Like, the seller will just be ghosting the investor for 2 months, 3 months, and all of a sudden they respond to a random email, and they say, oh, that must be the one that's working the best. No, it just has to do with their situation. Like, especially with housing, you can't really change somebody's decision to all of a sudden want to sell today. You can't do that. So especially with ghosted leads, and there's a lot of ghosted leads in this industry. So, I mean, there's an abundance of ghosted leads. So it's nothing personal on the investor when somebody ghosts you. It's just that, when the seller contacted you and about selling, they had this fire burning in them for that inquiry, and then something else happened. So they put that pot in the back burner here, and something else is boiling over. Their husband is trying to fight for the kids. The heirs are fighting over the house. So they have more things going on that has nothing to do with you. So months go by because they have other things they got to put out, other fires, other boiling pots. And all of a sudden, when they're finally ready, it's like you've been showing up with credibility. They trust who you are. And then they finally decide, okay, I'm going to go with this guy. Has nothing to do with that specific email. Sometimes it does. I won't say that copy is irrelevant, because I've seen responses back that say, that the seller has been like he was blatant about procrastinating. He just said, you know what, I'm just going to sell it to you. And so we see those, and so the copy definitely had something to do with it. But it's just the fact of showing up with credibility and trust. So
yeah, and then what I've seen anyway, because I know we've talked about like trying to see like, hey, because I know I've asked that question, hey, what emails work best? And I get the same answer. Well, it's, it's not really that. It's kind of this and, more showing up with credibility. And I think it comes down to like by being credible and being the leader in that space or being shown as the leader in that space and just continuously providing value, like they'll hit you when they're ready. And the big thing that a lot of people miss is like, you can't just hit them twice and expect that to happen. Like, because people are going to, there's so much noise out there, so much other companies and products and things that you can buy and get into. But by staying constantly in front of them with just different ways to think, aspects, different value. I know a lot of the people on our newsletters and email chains and all that kind of stuff it's a lot of value based stuff of how we do things, case studies, and you're finally hitting that person when they're in that specific spot and they're ready to go.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So that's my number one philosophy there. Everything is driven from that right there, rather than driving the clicks and driving the opens. And sure, there's certainly businesses that are driven by that, but I'm looking for the long term, right? Especially with drip sequences. Drip sequences are meant for long term, right? So that's what. So you can't be hitting them with, hey, our offer is going to expire next week. Give us a call,
Yeah.
right? So the urgency doesn't really do it, especially in this industry. So
yeah, I love the building the credibility and the trust factor and playing the long game. I know at Call Porter, with my email sequences, every email that I like to send out provides some sort of value. It's not a sales pitch necessarily. There's always some sort of value that they're going to get out of that email. So that they say, oh man, Vince, I remember Vince gave me this piece of advice, or Vince, led me in this direction. And, I know I wasn't quite ready for this service yet, but now that I built some tools and some systems and some routines, now I am, and they remember me. Right. So that kind of, tip of tongue, top of mind kind of thing. But I love just the value add that I put into emails, because it is the long game. And also our CRM at Call Porter and even at Ballpoint, we have a very sophisticated CRM. We know when people open things, and just because they opened it and I know they read it, I'm not chasing them. I don't send them an email like, dude, I saw you read my email, man. Let's do this. Like
I've gotten those before.
Yeah. I'm not even doing that. Like, I know you read it, and that's good enough for me. And then the next one that goes out, I see they've also read it. That's good enough for me, because they're staying engaged, and I know when they're ready, they're going to come. Right. And the same thing can be said on the investment side of things. It's a huge timing point of action. A lot can happen with a homeowner in 3 months. There could be a divorce that happens, a death in the family. There could be a big move. Their business is saying, all right, you're moving from St. Louis and you're going to Atlanta. Like there's tons of things that can happen, and it's all just a timing thing. And I've heard investors even say, even with their direct mail, someone's like, oh yeah, I've had your piece of mail on my fridge for like 6 months, and it's just, and I wanted to call you. So that building that credibility in that long game, it really is truly effective, especially when there's value to it as well.
Yeah, it's and it's also repping the touches. So like I have a case study that we dive into a client's investor's CRM. And I'm looking at the amount of touches that on average that's taking for these deals for these people to respond. So I see a range from anywhere from 30 touches to 70 to 140 touches. I was just on somebody's CRM yesterday, and I saw 140 touches for a deal to convert. So touches is everything, a call attempt, voicemail left. So on average, though, I'm seeing more 70, like that range, like 68, 70, 75. I'm seeing that range more often. So so I'm trying to rep the touches when it comes to building up drip sequences. So I mean touches. I don't mean like just this text message over and over and over again. So I usually build for investors a angle approach. So it's emails and SMS, of course, but it's also calls. Like, and when we sit and we do a task or notification, I don't like the investors that come in and want to do 100% ringless voicemail. I think they're really narrowing down their the pool of people who are actually going to listen to that, right? So I don't check. No, I don't know. Do you guys check?
I don't listen to ringless voicemails. When I see a call come in and it hangs up immediately, I'm like, nope, not doing it.
I don't. My voicemails, I only check them if it's a name I know.
Yep.
Like I kid you not, I could, like, if I pull out my phone right now, my storage is probably like 99% full, and it's all crap that, I have 33 voicemails right now from Salem, New Hampshire yesterday. I don't know anybody in Salem, New Hampshire. I'm not checking that. Like, that's just not something that I do. But like, yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. Like, I just get so much crap. I don't check 90% of those voicemails unless it's a name I know.
Yeah, and mine's probably full because I don't even have notification to that I have a voicemail. So
Yep.
So I mean, I still leave a voicemail script for investors. Like, that's still part of it, because how I look at it is it's 3 touches. If they actually fulfill the task that we give them, it's 3 touches. So it's a call notification. So the seller is going to get a call notification, a missed call notification. They're going to get a voicemail notification if they have that. And then I always instruct, in the instructions of the notification or task, there's a copy and paste text for them to plug in, so that a manual text, so that they can immediately text right after they leave a voicemail. Hey, something that's relevant. Hey, this is so-and-so just left a message about whatever it is, and it's something to get them to check that message if the curiosity urges them to. But
yeah,
there's 3 touches there. So some people are doing like the ringless voicemail. I get it for blasting out a list of people. I get that. I used to do that too. And there was like it's probably a lot less now, but back then there was like a number, like every time you sent out a blast of ringless voicemail, you get like a percentage of people who actually respond to it. I don't remember that number. It's probably a lot less now. But anyway, I wouldn't use it for follow-up. My personal opinion. I always do that in Omnidrip. I always do that. Like I run sales with Omnidrip. That's when I'm the only salesperson. So that's how I do it. I call, I leave a voice message, and I leave a text message right afterwards. So that's the most effective for a task.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking to an investor maybe last week who does ringless voicemails, and he says he still likes them because of the new features on Androids and iPhones that send you a text with the voicemail written out. And so he's like, this is a good way for me to.
I haven't seen that.
You haven't? No, I don't know. I get them. I
know iPhones are like 9 years behind all the new cool things, and they'll come out and everyone's like, oh my God, it's the new thing. And it's like, no, that's been here since 2020. But
yeah. So he was like, a lot of people are getting my ringless voicemails, and it comes in as a text as well, because it auto inscribes the voicemail into a text thread or something like that. I've seen it come on my phone like that, like when a friend leaves me a voicemail and then it puts it in there, but I haven't seen one from like a sales tactic yet. But he was saying
I know
that's something he's doing.
I know I've seen it while someone's leaving the voicemail. I can look at my screen on my iPhone and it'll transcribe what they're saying, but I didn't know you could get it as a text. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. That's cool. I think Google Voice, because I use Google Voice Number, I think that maybe does the same thing, or just does transcription, I think.
Yeah, I don't know.
Got it.
Yeah. So multi-angle. I'm and also sending people to the website. I mean, that's a big point of credibility. So if, like I said, like the best investors work with are the ones that have a web presence, that have reviews. So then we can then plug those in, and these messages are also sending people back to the website. And then if you're savvy, well, it's not really savvy. It's really easy to set up, but if you have like Facebook, or it doesn't matter if it's Facebook, you have retargeting set up, you land on your website, you're now collecting an audience to keep putting ads in front of them. And now you're creating this whole universe of like your brand is around them, and they see you. And that is what I want to do with these drip sequences. So it's not just direct mail. We set up direct mail too into their drip sequences, one-off direct mail, so that when somebody goes through, and Jeremy and I have talked about Ballpoint having one-off mail, which is not possible yet, but with another print shop, they have like the tech to set up one-off mail, not handwritten. It's not handwritten. I think handwritten probably be right now impossible to do one-off mail, but sure. They set a seller in, for example, I have a sequence called offer too low, landlord. So I segment that stuff. And so if somebody expresses to you, a landlord expresses to you, hey, the offer's too low, you have two choices. As an investor, you have three choices. You can either call them dead, which is a terrible idea. You can set manual tasks. You can keep setting manual tasks to follow up. Or you plug them into a drip sequence that has all four of those things, or five. It has email, has SMS, it has the task to do a manual call, has direct mail. I usually have like two mailers in each sequence. And at personal loom video, I have tasks to send out a personal loom video because I do that in my own business, and I love it. I think it has like a lot of impact when you actually send a video. It doesn't have to be loom, but loom is easy. It's cheap,
super easy. Yeah.
You have an app on your phone, and so for my clients, I have a video instruction video on how to do it. It's so simple. You just get the app on your phone, and when you're out walking your dog, whatever, you just hit the record button, and it'll send it off for you. And so those five things, you can drop in that drip sequence where it does all those five things rather than doing a manual. I get manual tasks, and I think that's how a lot of investors operate, is the manual task. But there's a point where you have too much leads to do that with, and then you're not taking advantage of all the other encompassing marketing tools that you have at your disposal: mail, email, SMS, of course, loom videos, tasks to call. So
yeah. Well, it's important to keep those. I mean, like, it's called Omnidrip for a reason, right? Like, that's something we've been a big proponent of for a long time, even before we met you, is just omnipresent marketing or omni-channel marketing, whatever you want to call it. And it's like you follow the same theme across all of those. Maybe it's a little bit different based off of just you can't fit the same amount into a text that you can in an email, but making sure that you're showing up in all of those places is a big thing. And I think a lot of investors forget, or especially if they're getting started or they're still pretty young, like, they'll just focus on one thing to start. And I know you have to kind of get to that point and get to where you want to be, but all of the people that we know that we have met that are doing, 5, 10, 15, 20 deals a month, they're all doing that, right? They have more than one marketing channel, and then you're able to kind of view your KPIs and see what's performing best and tweak and adjust and change. And having the ability to do that is an important part.
Yeah. And also not getting rid of a channel that's not working as well as others. I think that's
totally
important, because it doesn't, there's this saying, rising tide lifts all boats. So there's, I haven't tested this, so it's hard to, people say test, it's hard for me to believe because testing is actually really hard to do. I mean, a real true accurate test. And, but there's a lot of, especially like Dan Kennedy, he talks a lot about this. When you remove a marketing channel, then all of a sudden your results are dropping as well. It's kind of, you remove the least performing channel, and the total results are dropping. So, and this idea that it's this omnipresent idea. When I do sales calls with people and I ask them where they heard about me, I usually hear this. It's like, well, I saw you here and I saw you here and I started to search you here. So it's this, so I'm happy when I hear that. Great. But that is the intention of this omnipresent focus. So, So, you mentioned something about the SMS, and that is the beauty of having, having for SMS and email, is that you don't have to cram everything into one message, right? So I think that investors fall into that. They just cram everything into one message. But the thing is, you're going to hit them up again and again and again. And so this is what you guys do at Ballpoint. And I think it's fantastic. It's these letters, they're short. And these sequences, I should say, the postcard sequences and the greeting letter sequences, they're short. If we don't cram everything we can into one message, we take one focus, one feature, one benefit, and that's the highlight of that letter, right? Yep. And as the years gone by, we've changed that a little bit. We've changed the benefit that we're going to focus on, whether it be cash offer, whether it be no realtor fees, as is, etc. All those little benefits. you can just highlight one benefit in each of your messages as you're following up. So,
yep. And that's an important thing too, because we'll get, just speaking to the Ballpoint side, because that's where I spend most of my time, is we see custom letters come in from people that will do and produce. And sometimes it is that where it's like, a book of every single possible thing they can do and all the different variables and stuff. And it's like, I know for me and most of our clients and the sellers that we've worked with and all the millions of pieces of mail we send out, like, I don't read all that. Nope, nobody reads all of that. So having that clear, concise message, especially if you're texting, like if I get a long text, I'm already annoyed. Like immediately, I'm like, I got to read all this now. Like, what's the point? Like, what's the gist of this? So having the short, sweet points to that is so important to do, and make sure that it's being as effective as possible. And I think that kind of brings in the point of making sure you're using the marketing tools in the way they're designed, right? Like email, you can get more content in there if you need to, right? You can have more long form copy. Social media stuff, you can do that. Texting is usually more designed for quick conversations, quick texting and stuff like that. And that's what's going to perform better on those. Because even like with some of the stuff we see internally, like our open rates on text messages are like over 95%. Emails are, I don't know, 20 to 30 sometimes. Just kind of depends on, where you're at. But it's like, if you're doing it incorrectly, those are going to skew as well. So, yeah.
Yes, text message. There's some difficulty actually writing shorter stuff like that. And
totally. It's like I don't know if any of you guys play music, but it's like if you play drums or guitar, slow music is the hardest thing to do. It's so much harder than fast music, it's just it doesn't feel natural when you're doing it. But yeah, sorry, some similar thing.
Yeah. So doing the greeting letters and the postcard sequences, that is we have to hit a character count, a word count that's pretty low for a standard. It's pretty low to cram a good message into. So, and it's the same as with text message. And so I'm, with text message, there's two types of text messages, how I see it. There's one that's sounding like as if you thumbed it right then and there. There's like the marketing message that has some kind of benefit or value, or has a call to action to drive them to a website or something like that. So either one, though, when I'm looking at them and I'm reading it and I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to put here, most of the time I'm cutting things out. I'm cutting words that in a formally written piece of paper you'd leave in because it's grammatically correct, but in text message I'm not being grammatically correct. This is for investors, not necessarily for e-commerce, but for investors, yeah, I'm leaving out words that don't have to be there and just like cram it up, right? I'm trying to shorten everything out. They'll get the gist as they're reading it, like little words like I don't know, like to sell your house. I can't think of an example right now, but I'm trying to, like, if I can get away with the message with that word not being in there and it still makes sense, I'm going to remove it. So
yeah, it's like it's like typing the word "and" instead of using the word "and," you use the symbol, or like to shorten things up. And
yeah. I mean, that's how people text anyway.
Yeah,
exactly. So personal message, definitely. I have deliberate typos sometimes. I put it in drip sequences. So
yeah.
So if it's a personal message, it's meant to sound like I'm thumbing it right then and there. I'll leave a deliberate typo, and then 3 minutes later in the sequence, it'll go out with a star. Oh, sorry, I meant this, right? Or using the acronyms that people use. Is it acronyms? Shortened abbreviations?
Yeah.
Like, LMK, or
yeah,
this type of thing. So I am deliberately doing that. It's not professional, but it's just not how.
But it's personal.
It's human,
right
now.
Yes. I'm a big proponent of writing like you talk in most cases.
Yep.
So I don't, like you and I have, Justin, I've talked about ChatGPT quite a bit, and use it. I use it. You use it. And so the only downside to that is it's hard to use what it gives me as is, because it's so like it's so HR talk, like
very
political,
proper,
so proper, and it's like
yeah,
depending on the context, I most of the time I'm not going to use it the way it is.
yeah.
So
It's almost like it would be nice if you could tell it like, hey, say it like this person, you know, like
a lot of people say, oh, they just give an input and a prompt to do it, and you do it, and it's still like still pumps out like the same thing. It's kind of
yeah,
um
it's not
so
perfect.
it's not perfect. No, it's not perfect. It's definitely it has a long way to go for being like a click of a button type thing.
Yeah,
Where you click a button, you write one sentence and you click a button and it's like perfect quality that you want. It's a long way to go from that. I'd say that most people are using ChatGPT are actual writers than anything else. So
yeah.
Paul,
Oh,
I
yeah.
want to get into something really quick before it moves on to another topic, because you briefly went over it. Video in your drips. What have you seen as of late? The importance of video going out in a drip. Not just a loom video, but maybe even just a simple, in a text thread or something. So like, I personally use a lot of video in, my follow-ups, or even right after a phone call, a 10-second, hey dude, it was super cool talking to you. Save my contact and let's chat soon. Like something as simple as that, but seeing my face, what have you seen, as of late with video these days? And do you think it's going to be, even more important kind of moving on?
yeah, absolutely. The stats show video is gets the most engagement, but it's hard to like. So I use video quite a bit. So if I'm done with a call with somebody, so depending on the context, I might send a quick video and link it in. And with Loom, it's pretty cool. With email you can see the video, although
Right.
I think when you click it, it sends you to a different page, right? So you don't actually see it within the email, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or is there a tool that actually you can see? I think BombBomb.
Yeah, you
Bomb
can
will
embed it like
embed it
that.
into
Yeah.
emails.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with investors though, there's the issue of we don't do that with investors. And as far as embedding videos, we do, like if they have videos on YouTube, we're going to link those,
Mm-hmm.
but it's hard to embed videos because of the CRMs they use. Like, so a lot of CRMs just don't have that ability to do it inside of the to make it automated. So
yeah, I mean, and it's definitely hard to scale video to, short videos on follow-ups. I can have 10 to 12 sales calls in a day. That's a lot to, film those little responses. I know there's apps, I've looked into a couple, platforms that you essentially film the same video and an AI like says, hey, Justin, hey, Paul, and it just changes the very beginning. It's a little bit choppy at the beginning.
I was going to say,
I've seen those.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I don't,
go ahead.
Yeah, I don't prefer the way they look because it does kind of make the images a little bit grainier and things like that. But if there's somebody that I've talked to and I know that the relationship is huge, they're a very good lead, it's hot, they've given me a ton of information, you better believe I'm sending them something more personal like that. Yeah.
Well, I met somebody at one point at a mastermind a couple of years ago that he recorded like thank you emails or thank you videos or follow-up videos, things like that. And he went through and recorded it with the like top 200 names in the US. And so like recorded literally 200 videos, had it all built out and complex to where if it matched the name of the person, it pulled that video. But like realistically, like what you said, Vince, like it takes 10 seconds to a minute and a half maybe to record that video, like immediately put it in a text and send it. And it's going to be way more personal than doing something like that. Right. And that's, I think the important part of it is having it personal, because you can tell, like I've seen similar videos where I've had people send me videos for like marketing stuff where I'm like, bro, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, that's not what we do. Like, people hit me up on Ballpoint stuff and they're like, oh, with your digital online marketing agency. And I'm like, we're a marketing agency, but it's not digital. It's all printed, like, so you lose a lot of that stuff.
And the video right away, like I can have a conversation with somebody and be very personalized. Like,
Yeah.
dude, just let me know whenever you get that, your Simply CRM set up, and you know, in your direct mail with Ballpoint, like, hit me up. Like, that's so personal because it's actually what we talked about rather than some generic, like, so it goes a long way for sure.
Oh
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so with scaling and all this, all this stuff with AI, it sounds really sexy, right? So a lot of people, especially investors,
buzzword.
it's investors are lazy. A lot of people are lazy, right? So I'm lazy. So, but you have to I think you have to strike a balance. AI and all these tools are meant for scale. It's not meant for somebody starting out and having to build their market, having to so when podcasts are a big thing for me. So meaning every morning, not every morning, but maybe 3 times, 4 times a week, the first thing I'm doing is I'm doing cold outreach to podcast hosts. And so I can go about of creating a template, which I do, but then if I reach out to 10 people in the morning and I just copy paste, cool, I'll save 15 minutes. Great. But each one of those, I might make a mistake where maybe I left the other person's name in it, or I left the wrong podcast name, or it's not I'm not doing any kind of research for.
We've all been there.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's a point where you don't need scalability early on. Like you it's just like the hustle phase, right? You're just hustling to get appearances, to get in front of people, to get in front of sellers. And I think people jump to AI thinking it's a solution when it's really not.
No, it's a tool. You can use it for certain things.
But at what point do you need that much scalability? You're probably far from needing that much scalability. I can tell when email is written with AI. I can totally tell you. And it's usually, for some reason, chat, when you ask it for an email, it always starts off with hope your day is going well, or something or something.
Greetings.
Greetings.
Earthling.
Let me spit my water out.
So I can totally tell when an email is written by AI, and it's kind of like, man, you're writing me a one-off email and you can't even do it yourself. It's a total turn off for me. So yeah, I with AI, I think there's a lot of I have my own opinion of AI that's probably contrarian to what everybody believes it is. I think it's just going to dumb down the content in 5 years from now, and make people who actually put a little more thought into things stand out. So that's my opinion.
Oh, yeah. I think I don't think you're contrarian on that at all, dude. I think you're already starting to see it with people that are making content and stuff like that are, using AI for which I use AI all the time. I do. It's very helpful in certain things, but for content and stuff, I would be very surprised if there's not a way in the next year for social media or email platforms to recognize if something automatically was written by AI and prioritize what you're going to see. I would not be surprised if that's a thing that comes out of that. And there's already some tools that you could throw an email into and it will tell you if it was AI built. I've tricked it a couple times, just because I was playing with it, but I can see that kind of stuff coming through for authenticity. I think that's what is going to continue to sell and be the most important thing across the board in any business.
So yeah, the big question for AI is whether or not it can learn to be authentic. Later on. And that's a big question. And actually, Harvard came out with a study that where they measured the content quality of the content right now, and then they put it in a computer model to show where is it going to be, and it shows a significant decline in AI content. And the theory is, well, if AI is if it's a learning model, so if 90% of the content is AI out there, it's just learning from each other. And so it's like incest, right? You have sex with your brothers and siblings as much, that gene quality is going to go down a little bit.
You're going to run into some issues,
right? So
you might grow a flipper.
Yeah. Funny. I hope this. And that was PG-13, so that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. It's our humor.
So that that's a theory, that's going to happen in 5 years. Or there's the other theories that operators of AI are going to become better and better, and that's the key is today to have decent content with AI, and that comes with. And I could tell with the images. I wonder if images for AI is going to change, because you can now tell when an image is AI because it's always kind of the same.
Very easily.
And so anyway,
there are social media channels like on Instagram that are 100% AI. Like it'll be an influencer, some dude or some chick, 100% AI. The video, them speaking, the images, everything, and all, they're getting a huge following. And these people in the comments are like, "You're so inspirational. You're so this. I can't believe," and it's not even real. And it looks real, but it's like, it's insane what people are able to do these days with video and stuff. It's actually kind of scary.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Changing gear, or kind of not really changing gears, kind of going back to, because I had a question I wanted to ask you around text messaging with follow-up stuff. Obviously with like 10 DLC and some of the rules and restrictions that carriers have adopted and making it more challenging for text messaging, we've seen like text messaging platforms be shut down and like reintroduce these text message templates that are just like absolute garbage to try and get through, talking about being parts of the HOA locally and like all that kind of stuff. When with Omnidrip, or just with texting in general for follow-up, what kind of stuff are you seeing from like a deliverability standpoint? And is there like a certain way that you're handling those text messages to make sure they go through? Because I've always had great results with texting just on anything, but I know it has gotten challenging, and a lot of people are having to pivot their businesses right now because they're like, you can't just cold blast text messages like you used to be able to anymore. So I'm kind of curious like what you've seen and what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah. I have a lot of thoughts on that. So cold text messaging is pretty much out the window. So this is about warm texting. So the rules for texting have always been the same, except for the 10 DLC registration, but have always been the same, and this falls on the same rule of email. So I might say a lot of facts and opinions. So I'll mention this is fact, and this is my opinion of what's going to happen.
Okay.
But facts are that it's always been under FCC rule that if you're going to, especially for the consumer market, and this might not be true for business to business, but consumer market, which is investor falls into, they try to say, well, I'm not selling something, so I'm
offering to buy something.
Right. So is that really going to stand in front of a judge?
No.
Horseshit.
No, it's not.
Excuse, right. So it's laughable that they're even spinning their wheels in their head to come up with that. But so anyway, the rules are that somebody has to give you permission to sign up to your list, and then you have to have an option for them to be removed. And so with that, when you know that, it's not really about the content you send. So when it comes to email, content might put you in promotion folder, okay, but not so much in this. Content's not going to land you in the spam folder unless you're talking about like pornography or something like that. That kind of content does land in the
overtly spammy stuff.
More so like pornography. That's what like Gmail. You have to understand with like these platforms, they're looking for good user experience, right? So they don't want that kind of stuff landing in people's inbox all the time, right?
Interesting.
Somebody's landing on those sites, and they capture your email and then they're sending stuff to you, right? Gmail wants to filter that stuff out, put it in because they're trying to protect you. So that's the biggest thing. These platforms and carriers, they're looking for good user experience. They want to make sure that whatever you're getting, it's something that you actually want to see, read, and consume. So that's an important thing. You have to understand that. So with text messaging, that's going to change. That platform is changing where now carriers are making sure that you're doing that. Ballpoint, we experienced that, right? The carrier wanted to know if we have the right opt-in message up front, right? And they want to know for unsubscribing people. So that's what carriers want. That's what carriers are going to be looking for. It's not about the content. They don't really care about the content as long as it's not nothing pornographic. Because they understand like this is a business, and if the consumer reaches out to you, and it doesn't matter if it's a business related thing that you're selling. These carriers don't care as long as the consumer understands what they're receiving, and that's what they wanted to begin with. So the content doesn't really matter. Now people are going to challenge me. Well, certain content gets through other content. That's true because of the whole cold text messaging thing, right? So carriers are looking out for that because they're trying to get rid of the spammers. So they're looking out for that. So some things for Omnidrip. So that's like the 10,000 foot view stuff. But here's like the granular stuff that we've done with Omnidrip. Is one thing that I have removed from our messaging is the word cash. That's kind of been the biggest obstacle, is cash, and then second to that is maybe property. But it's really odd. It's really odd because it's hard to track this stuff because some messages go through and others don't. So
and sometimes you'll see it where there's no pattern to it either. It just randomly will get rejected.
Yeah.
And I've seen it where even at Ballpoint, because all of our lines are registered with 10 DLC if we're doing a text message follow-up with a customer, there'll be times where like that text won't go through, but if we send it immediately again, then it will go through. And it's like it hasn't been a pattern to it or anything that we've seen.
Yeah, I'm not seeing a pattern either. Cash, I was seeing a pattern, so we removed it from our messaging.
Okay.
I don't think cash needs to be there anyway for follow up. I mean, you're talking about an offer. I think people understand, but but I think that it's just all over the place because carriers are getting a lot of heat from the FCC, so they are being a little more particular about things. So the biggest thing, so going forth next, this year, months from now. This is opinion, but what's to happen in the whole SMS playing field? Well, I think cold messaging will probably be gone. No carrier. There'll probably be no platform able to do it. And when I say cold, I mean like you upload a list and just blast it away. Yeah, there's certain platforms that won't let you do that at all. Like I think Klaviyo is one of them that you have to ensure that it's you have to click a button to say this is a opted in list. You can send it, but then if they find out that it's a cold list and they can find out through your spam rate, they'll kick you off and you're not able to go back to that platform.
Yeah.
So how are they going to measure? How are they going to measure that you're doing things cleanly and the right way? It's your spam rate. So if you have a high spam rate, and that's the same with email, by the way. This text message, email, these things are the same rules apply. If you have a high spam rate, that's a red flag. They're going to throw you into the spam folder. So how do you avoid a high spam rate? One is you remove people that ask for it. And then second, you are also only adding people to your SMS list that said yes to send us a text message, to be placed on your list. There's a lot of I've seen it in forums. I think maybe recently forum about asking when should I put in the stop, the reply stop to be removed from your list. Everyone's answer was, and I think it was a terrible answer. Everyone's answer was just put it on the first one because that's what FCC requires. So your first message goes out, it says stop, and that's true. But as text messages go by, and the consumer wants to be removed, they don't have the instructions to do so. So their next option is to hit the spam on you. So some phones have it's really easy to hit spam on a phone number.
Super easy.
Yeah. So that's their next option. But so I always say put it on every one. I don't do that in Omnidrip because they all have different platforms. They all use different text messaging platforms. So we tell them add it in or click. Some of them are like click a button to add it in. But going forth, actually, we might do that. We might add every single one just to ensure everyone's doing things right. I advise everyone to do it in every single text message because it gives an option. It gives an option for somebody to leave. If they don't want to be on there, don't force them to be on there. That's the quickest way to get spammed. And as your spam rates go up, then your delivery, you're going to end up in spam or not even be delivered anymore.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, because even if I think about it too, like any texts I get from, one I'm thinking of off the top of my head is Hexclad, is like a cookware company that we use that I love their stuff. Every single text I get from them has a press, reply stop to opt out option.
Yep.
And clothing companies do it. Like, I think you agree. I agree with that because I know I agree with it, not I think. But like, if someone doesn't want to be on the list, they're obviously not going to be on the list, but just, it gives you more, I don't know, if something were to ever come back where they said that, I didn't have that opportunity, like you're just overly protected, right? Like you have that on there no matter what. And I think people now know too, like if you get a spammy text, like you could probably just reply stop and it will stop you from being on that text message if it's set up correctly. But yeah, that's an important thing.
I think for the long game, because we're going back to the drip sequences, you're playing the long game here. It's these little things do improve your long-term metrics. It improves your deliverability. Sure, you get more opt-outs. Like, well, my unsubscribes went up. Well, yeah, but if you would have done the opposite way, what would have been your spam rate, and then what would be your deliverability rate at the end of all of it?
So it'd be more detrimental almost.
Yeah. So, and then you're gonna have problems with platform kicking you off, and then not in your number not. So your numbers has, because of 10DLC, your number is going to have a trust factor. This is my opinion. What's going to probably happen is these things are going to clear out, or it's going to level off, where now investors are going to be able to send SMS. All the spammers are going to be kicked off. They're not going to be able to do it anymore. And what's going to determine your deliverability is this trust factor that, this is not like, you won't find this when I'm talking about like a trust factor online or anything like that. But we know at an email, we know that there's like a score with your email domain. So your email domain, for Ballpoint, majority of your emails, Justin, I see end up in inbox rather than promo folder. Some of them slip through the promo folder, and that has more to do with IP address, but that's because you have a high trust in your, like the Gmail, Yahoo, all these platforms, all these ESPs, they trust your domain, right? If a new domain comes in and starts emailing in the frequency that you do, it has a low trust factor. So it's more likely to end up in spam. They don't know you. You come in like, I don't know this new domain here. So we're going to throw it into the promo folder and see what happens. We're going to throw it in the spam folder and see what happens. So numbers are going to have the same, phone number is going to be the same thing now that they're registered. It's going to be the same exact thing as email. It's going to be, your phone number is like a domain for email marketing. So, or for SMS marketing.
That makes a lot of sense.
What determines, so like, at Call Porter, I would say the vast majority of my emails definitely go to inbox. But every now and then someone's like, oh, I did get your email, went to spam. Yeah. What determines that one went to spam when it's exactly the same as any other email that went out? And it could even be a Gmail account, and the other Gmail accounts didn't send it to spam. It's weird. Like,
yeah. So that has more to do with the user, the consumer. So Gmail, the AI has been used for a long time now. And so this is a component of AI, is where Gmail is learning how you use your Gmail. So it's just trained to how you function in your Gmail account. That's how it's operating. So the vast majority of that person doesn't even really doesn't look at email, throws things in spam, unsubscribes, etc. Gmail's just learning that and doing it for you. So that's one. The other is the IP address. Not necessarily that. There's these so Gmail and Yahoo, all these ESPs go through these waves through the year of really looking at one IP address over there. When I say IP address, I mean, where is it being sent from? So it's being sent from HubSpot. That is a particular IP address. So it goes through these waves where it's paying attention to that IP address. So then you end up more emails in the promo folder because it's paying more attention to it. And then it'll move on to another different IP address. So. Mm-hmm. But I will say, so that's important. So this is going back to Omnidrip. That's why I think I believe, it's not I know it's important to have multiple angles to follow up with, right? Because you have, not only have the problems with deliverability now, so it's harder to get things through. Yeah. Then you have people who are, email readers, you have people who are SMS consumers, people who are social media consumers, et cetera, all these different types of people. So might as well take advantage of all the different angles we can do, because if you just stick with SMS, and I've had investors that just want SMS, and I think it's a mistake, and they're narrowing down their pool. Again, the same with the ringless voicemail. I just want to follow up with ringless voicemail. You're minimizing the pool of people who are actually going to respond.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Someone's getting, let's go this way. So if someone is just getting into real estate investing, right? They've got a limited budget and they're looking for a way to just get their next deal started, right? They're just, it's whole point of the podcast is help people get to their next deal. And I think we've done a great job on this podcast so far, like explaining a lot of different stuff. But if someone is brand new to this from a marketing standpoint for you, what would you recommend someone to start with, right? They might not be able to do the whole omnipresence type stuff, right? And be able to do texting and emailing and, calling and all this different stuff. Like if you were getting started over again, what would you do?
Okay. So I'm not an operator, so everyone take this to a grain of salt, but sure. I mean, I was in that hustle phase of putting out offers, getting deals. I will say this first. I think people grossly underestimate what it actually takes to get a deal in their contract. So go into the scene knowing that it's going to take a good amount of effort. I know that might be discouraging for a lot of people because you hear on social media about how easy it is to make money on YouTube or how easy it is to make, but all that is, most people are full of it. Most people I believe are full of it on these the social media gurus and things like that. But
sure.
So let me go into a story here. Okay. A very interesting story. I met while I was working for the gas company, and before I was a copywriter, I was working for the gas company in SoCal. I'm in Idaho now, very close to North Idaho, very close to Sasquatch, and we talked about this, right, Vince? The Yeti and all that.
We can bring that up in a minute.
Bring up the Sasquatch right there.
We're close to a few hours, real close to all the UFO landings in Utah, in north Utah. Getting back to my story here. While working for the gas company, I ran into the biggest franchise owner of Wabu Grill, which is really big in SoCal. It's like this fusion bowl type of thing. He was an Indian guy, told me his story. He started off as a first-time franchise owner, like he was 18. He had no idea what he was doing. So he got his first franchise going, but for like 2 years he was broke, miserable, struggling, not getting this off the ground. And then his uncle gave him a tip, and he said, give it 1,000 days at least. Then when you reach that 1,000 days, make your decision to quit. So I think that so what I mean by that and being grossly underestimating the amount of effort is I remember cold calling, and you'd go, if you're new to that, it's a hard thing to do, to cold call. So you think after 10 cold calls you're exhausted and you're like, okay, I did my cold calls, cool. I did. And it's like, you did cold calls, like where's the next 900? Where's the next 500 cold calls coming from? And so I know that doesn't answer your direct question, but everyone's situation is going to be different and in their marketplace. So in my marketplace, or in my old marketplace of SoCal, mail is going to take, and I dropped a lot of money on mail back then. you're looking at a higher cost per deal in that market. So you have to know that coming into the scene. So how do you know that? Well, I just talking with other investors, talking with Ballpoint. So then if you don't have that option, it's like, well, what's the next other options? Well, what can you afford, right? If it's cold calling, understand that you've got to make a lot of cold calls. If it's door knocking, same thing. I mean, I used to door knock, and I door knock only the like foreclosure homes, or I door knock the executors. So we'd be, me and a partner would be driving around all of Inland Empire. We'd hit our list of all these foreclosures. Well, that wasn't enough, because, maybe at the end of the week, we'd probably hit 10 houses. So we're doing all this driving to door knock 10 houses. Yeah, sure, those are more motivated, but if we're doing all this driving, might as well door knock more homes. So volume. So it's playing really the volume game of whatever you're deciding to do. At the end of the day, it's about offers, right? How many offers did you make? I mean, every business is different, but it's very similar in KPIs and in what the results are. So what I mean by that is every week I go through my KPI list and I ask, well, did I hit this number? If I didn't hit this number, what can I do today to hit this number? Did I make enough calls? Did I follow up with enough people? Same goes with a real estate investor. At the end of the day, it's like, what's going to help you close a deal is how many offers you make. That's what you can control, right? You can't control if you're going to get a deal or not, but you can control how many offers you make. So at the end of the week, it's like, well, I didn't make any offers this week. Well, hit the MLS and start making offers, whatever it is. So at the end of the day, find whatever avenue you take, understand that the idea is to make as many offers as you can. Don't worry about if you're starting out, your conversion rates are going to suck. That's just you just got to make more volume if that's the case. But I remember reading on a forum, this lady she was really frustrated that her cold calling wasn't getting any results, and she was. This is going to tie into Omnidrip, by the way. So there is another philosophy to how I build drip sequences, but that I didn't talk about yet. But she expressed her frustration, saying, "I can't find a deal cold calling." I responded with, "Well, I responded a lot nicer than this, but you're thinking at it all wrong. Cold calling is not about finding a deal. The only when you're doing any kind of prospecting, your only goal of it is to actually find a seller, and that's it. And then you collect those sellers, you put them into your database, and now you have another job to follow up with those sellers, to make an offer to those sellers, to follow up on those offers, right? And so going back to drip sequences, my sequences are built in that manner where it follows a pipeline, because we're not trying, regardless of the business, going from a cold prospect to making the deal happen, there's all these little mini sales that have to happen in between. For investing, you have to know they're a seller. That's the first quote sale you have to make. Then you have to get them on an appointment. That's the next sale. Then you have to give an offer. Then you have to follow up on that offer. And there's all these little things you do on the way. So my sequences are built that way, where it's event-based sequences. It's not. I don't build sequences that are based off of like, oh, they haven't contacted me, they ghosted me. The biggest reason I don't do sequences that way is because I can't narrow down on the call to action. So what I mean by that is, if I just have a no contact sequence where I throw all the leads that have ghosted us into it, well, what the hell do I say? Because one person hasn't gotten an offer, another person went to an appointment, another person did get an offer or said no to it. So it's like all these little different call to actions that I can't leverage. The call to action is important in copy. So what's the next thing that needs to happen? What's the next clear instruction I have to give them? So if I have a sequence for, they haven't made an appointment yet, well, now I can leverage that. Now I know what to say. Now I know that, hey, my goal here for this person is to get them on an appointment, right? And now I have KPIs I can measure. How many leads go to appointment? How many offers are made? How many appointments go to a lead, et cetera. So,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I rambled there with a lot of tech babble, but I didn't really answer the question. What's the best thing to do? But I think I hope I answered that.
I think you did. I think you
Yeah, I
did
mean, yeah,
in a way that gives a lot of info that allows people to make that decision, right? Like really a big part of it too, like you said, is it takes a lot more than you think it does. And it's funny too, because you made a comment about like influencers can be, you know, full of it and all that kind of stuff. And I totally get where you're coming from. And but it is kind of funny though, like the ones that I know, at least some of the ones I know, with what they're preaching and teaching, like sometimes it is as easy as they're saying, but most people don't want to do the work to make that happen. And you
So it might be simple. So Ryan, your brother has said this a lot,
yeah,
and I've said this. You hear this a lot. It's simple. It's simple, and
yeah,
it is simple. It's really simple. It might not be easy, but it is a simple. And
yep,
we overcomplicate things quite a bit. And it's like I have a coach. I have my own sales coach, and I suck at sales. I really do. I mean, I'm good at marketing, but on face to face, I'm not very good at sales. So you know, and it's just he gives the most simple solution, and I'm like, oh my, I'm like I'm overcomplicating. I'm like, but
yep,
what if how they feel about this, and what if they do that? It's like, no, you're you're making it a lot more difficult than what it is. The simple thing is, you know, and then he goes on.
yeah,
So yeah, yeah, it's simple, but it's not easy because in the it's not easy because of the mindset and the mentality and the obstacle that's put in front of. Meaning, like we don't want to do that much effort, or we think it's easier than it is, or we think that the person's going to be offended, or our image is going to be hurt. We're afraid of what our parents think or friends and family think if they know we're door knocking and
mhm,
all that
yep.
stuff. So
Well,
that's the hard part,
it
getting over
is,
that
and
mental
it's
obstacle.
literally everything you mentioned is all just between the ears. Like it's
yeah.
all the challenge comes from there. Like you said, it's simple, but it's not easy. And it's like, you know, we run 3 companies, including our business down in Baton Rouge, and you know, it's pretty simple to run a business, to scale it and grow it. But like for me, I know like the number one, you know, it sounds like you overthink things, Paul, and I could be wrong, but like from what you're saying about like sales, like what if this, what if this, what if this, overthink things. And like for me, my thing is I just doubt the shit out of myself. Like is just where my natural tendency is like, well, I can't do that. No, that's not going to work. And but it's like, no, like you have the steps. The steps are there. Other people have done it. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to actually do it. And it's, you know, a lot of the stuff that I have seen, and I'm excited to have him on in the future. My personal coach, Mike, will be on one of these in February, I think. But it's like it literally all just comes back to how you're conditioned and brought up and trained, and that's where those thoughts come from. And but that's like that number one hindrance for people is it's easy, but or it's simple, but it's not easy, you know.
Oh yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, I used to be similar, Justin, doubt myself a lot, overthink things. And
mm-hmm.
the way that I overcame that was small increments at a time,
Yeah,
right? Like going back to your question, like what would a real estate investor do if they're just starting out, right? Think very precisely. Like, I want to get 4 deals this year. Like, you don't need to be the real estate investor that says, I want to get 50 deals this year. I also want to do 13 land deals. I want to buy some commercial property and some storage units. And if I don't do that, I'm a damn failure. You've already set yourself up for failure at that point, right? Like you're
oh yeah,
you're dead in the water. So I set, and I do this in the house, right? When we bought this house, it needed a ton of work. It's very overwhelming on the big picture to say all of this needs to get done when you can say, I'm starting with this kitchen,
yeah,
right? That's something small that you can do right away. And it's the same thing with like my tasks, even throughout the day with Call Porter. I've learned that when you tackle the small things first, right, and you incrementally work your way up to the bigger things,
mm-hmm.
you can do those small it's just like this mindset just helps you to say, I've got these done, now I can move on to this.
Yep.
It's the same thing with real estate investing. Paul, I don't have as many properties as you want to talk about the walking skeleton. um, but I know what I want. I'm very precise on what I know I want, and where I want them, and the perfect person or the avatar that's going to be, renting my buy and holds. Like, I'm not, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm very precise on what I want. I'm not out there to get a social media following and say, guys, look at all these deals I've done. Look at all these doors. That's just not going to be me. But I
Yeah.
am very set on the long game. I'm setting Susie and I up for success 20 years down the road, where we have these homes, these properties, this portfolio where we can do what we want.
When you're clear on what you want too. Like,
And very clear. Yeah.
that's we can kind of follow this path if we want here, but like that's one of the number one things I've worked with my coach on, is like just having a vision for your life and being very clear with it. And like we did our weekly all hands meeting that both of you guys were on Monday, and it was like, we know where we're going for the year at Ballpoint, we know where we're going for the year at Call Porter, and we're clear on what that is and what industries we would get into, what industry, and where that lane is. And it goes all back to shiny object syndrome with investors too, because you see so many different things. And like we've talked about it all the damn time, but I'm in Collective Genius, and like every time I go there, I learn so much stuff, but I'm also like, I can't implement all this. There's no way I can implement every single thing. So it's like when you go to those events or networking groups or whatever, it's like, look for the things that are going to help you follow your path and your goal. Like I'm similar to you. Like my wife and I, we want to flip 4 properties ourselves this year, like just 1 a quarter, like nothing crazy, just add an extra 30-40 grand a quarter to our bottom line that like we don't have to worry about. It's something kind of fun. And it's like, I know the property type that we want to go after. I know how many, I know the frequency, and like anything outside of that is just going to distract the shit out of me, and I'm not going to get it done.
Yeah. And even getting into those like fix and flips, I think Ryan does this, right? He's got the same fridge, the same paint, the same carpet, the same, like, so you know your numbers really well on it, no matter, what house it's going to be, because you're using those same products. That keeps it very simple and very clear and very precise. Like, every flip doesn't have to be some like brand new design with brand new tile and you're, building these things out to, to the nines. Like, you can be very successful in having a clear idea of what goes into those houses.
Yeah. It's funny too. I reached out to a friend of mine here locally he's a rehabber, and that's what he does. His team is very good at it. And I was like, hey, here's what we're trying to do for the year. Is this something that your team could take on? And he's like, I'm really focused on my own internal stuff. I could probably help you here and there. He's like, but I do want to let you know, like, it's going to be like, the flips are going to look the same. Like, we have a set process, we have set products, we have a warehouse with all the material. Like, it's a similar process to make it go through. And I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm totally fine with that. As long as it looks good and the deal makes sense, like I'm all for that. I have no problem with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you familiar with Garcia Homes here in St. Louis, Justin?
Mm-mm.
They're more of like a St. Louis City real estate company.
Okay.
But when you see a Garcia home, you
got it.
Literally know it's a Garcia home, that they fixed and flipped it because of just the way that they do it, because it's very clear and precise, and it's actually pretty cool.
I think that's it. So going back to what you said, Vince, about you don't want to be that guy, and I don't want to be that guy either. Like, meaning going to the
and there's
door,
nothing wrong with being that guy.
There's nothing wrong. Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with it, and there's nothing wrong with not being it. Yeah. And I made that decision years ago. That's what anyone's asking, like, oh, why aren't you flipping land? Because flipping land was a very easy business model for acquisitions. A little more difficult when it comes to selling it. Mm-hmm. And actually, Mike Blankenship, which you and I both know, we actually partnered together for a few deals. And
nice.
Yeah, so he understands the process too. So anyway, I decided not to do it because with real estate, I'm going to throw back to Rich Dad Poor Dad. Okay, he has the Cash Flow Quadrant book, which I think is a lot better book than the Rich Dad Poor Dad.
It's a lot more dense, but it's good.
Cash Flow Quadrant really makes you understand the different categories of where you stand, right? So you're either employer, self-employed, business or investing. The goal is to get into the investor quadrant. But so how do you do that? Well, I think the guy at CG, he talks about this. What's his name? The guy that runs CG. Jason, he's talked about this, where if you're creating a flipping business, forget investing for now. Just don't buy any more rental portfolios. Build your business first to be a cash machine, because you'll have far more leverage to buy later, to invest later. And if that flows exactly with the model of cash flow quadrant. Cash flow quadrant is if you're going to be in the business side, you're building a business to create a cash machine for you so that you can move that money over to the investing side, regardless of what you're investing in. Stocks, doesn't matter. So I don't know why I'm bringing that up, but I think, we talk about building a business, and I've struggled, being a copywriter is one thing. Okay. Building a business is a completely different story. And this, along with investing, getting a deal under contract is one thing, but building a scalable business is a completely different skill set. And so I think when people, so if you're self-employed, if you're employed, you have one hat, you wear one hat. Well, not if you're self-employed. Self-employed, you have a few more hats. And then when you run a business, now you have to consciously and subconsciously understand you're putting on multiple hats. So Russell Brunson, you guys all know ClickFunnels, right?
Yeah.
So he's a guy that, and how do I know that? I don't personally know them. I know people that do know him. That he's the charismatic kid behind the screen. Like you see him, he's like, man, this kid's full of energy. Outside of that, though, he's a complete introvert. You would never think the guy is somebody who'd go on a screen with all this enthusiasm, but he puts on his hat. He puts on that hat to get in front of the screen. He puts on, I think he calls it setting the stage. He gets on stage, he puts that hat on. So there's a really good book called The Alter Ego that has a lot to do with that. Of whatever your Kobe Bryant, he had his own alter ego. Whenever he went on stage, he actually, they call him the Black Mamba. No, that was his alter ego that he made up for himself. So he actually imagined and pictured himself as this Black Mamba snake. And then his personality changed, his playing game changed. So, so there's a lot of powerful mindset tool to that. So
interesting. I didn't know that.
I got to plug this in real quick, but unless we're going to finish this, because my computer is going to die pretty soon.
Oh, dude, mine's not even plugged in. Now that you say that, it will be in a minute.
Mine is.
Oh man.
So
cool. Yeah. Anything else you guys want to chat about? Vince, any other questions you have, or Paul, any questions for us we can answer?
No, man, we've hit an hour, almost 30 minutes now of chatting. Yeah. So,
I think this was good.
Yeah.
If anybody wanted to get drip sequence, they can head over to my website. That's right there. I don't know if it shows up, but right.
Probably won't, but go ahead and do the plug for Omnidrip, and we'll make sure it goes out to people.
Well, I've been actually given my phone number, my Google Voice number for people to call. But if they want to just go to my website, reiomnidrip.com. If they wanted to call me, because I'm being a lot more upfront about phone calls now, they can call me at 951-901-8208 or leave a text first. But reiomnidrip.com, they can find me there. So
perfect. Yeah, I mean, I've working with you over the years, like I couldn't recommend people enough working with you. I think it's worked really well, and we've seen a lot of really cool growth in our organizations working with you so far. So very, very grateful for you coming on today. This was probably one of the easiest podcasts I think we've done. Just it flowed very naturally and was very, very fun to record. So Vince, anything else you want to add?
No, man, same with as Justin just said, like, we love you. We appreciate you. Super cool dude. Yeah, guys, if you're listening and, follow up is definitely something you need, check out Paul for sure. At reiomnidrip.com.
I appreciate that, guys. We didn't get to talk about Yeti, Sasquatch, which everyone thinks probably I don't believe that stuff. We just ended up talking because Vince has the conspiracy theories behind him, and Idaho and Oregon, they tend to be conspiracy theorists. And we didn't get about me getting chased by gangbangers while door knocking, which can happen to you if you're door knocking a bad neighborhood. I think St. Louis has some really terrible.
Let's close with that story. That'd be a fun way to close. Let's close with that story.
Yeah. Well,
St. Louis does have some crazy neighborhoods. I just don't go there and never will.
I don't think I'll ever door knock. I don't know. I mean, if you door knock those areas in St. Louis, I don't know. I mean,
you're brave.
Didn't your brother Ryan used to carry with him whenever you go to those bad neighborhoods, right?
Ryan had one time where he pulled up. He was looking at a house, and it was like winter time, so it got dark early. And he pulled up to a gas station to get gas on this exit, and like he's the only little white ginger kid within 10 miles, like just very out of place where he was at. He was looking at this property, and he had a cop pull up and get out, and Ryan was like, I didn't do anything, did I? He's like, no, but why are you at this gas station? And he was like, I need gas. He's like, this is not a place. This is not a safe place. Like you need to not be in this area. I'm going to wait until you're done, and I will follow you off the exit. So there's some places in St. Louis where it's like, I don't like driving through certain areas.
Yeah. Well, if that was a social media story, they might have called that cop a racist, right? But right. So
it's just not a safe area. It just is what it is.
Well, being that he's white and they talk to him, like he's a sore thumb. But so I was door knocking Pomona, California, which is known for being gang infested. It was where there's two in Southern California. There's San Bernardino, which I've worked in the middle of San Bernardino, which is it's terrible. And then Pomona, which was all of like, so when they started cleaning up LA and Compton, a lot of those gangs moved over to Pomona or San Bernardino. So I was door knocking Pomona because that's where some of our foreclosures were at. But my partner, he's a former college football player. He's really big, really tall. He's black. And we were apparently I found this after, we were in the same neighborhood where there's a lot of Latino gangs. So, I mean, I'm not, I'm bringing race here because it is relevant. I mean, there are Latino gangs that didn't do well with black gangs. And so we were door knocking. He had a souped up BMW, really nice car. And we would door knock in that car. We'd park and do our round right there. We got back in his car to go over notes and go over the houses we're going to look at. And he's still a really good friend of mine, by the way. And after this, I mean, but we done a couple deals together. And so a car pulled up next to us, rolled down their windows, and started throwing gang signs at us. We're like, what the hell's going on here? And then they took off and they did a U-turn and parked right behind us. And we're like, we're freaking out. Like, well, okay, what is? And then we saw the door open, and then he just took off. He took off. And then these guys followed up right behind. They're right on our tail. We're driving through. He's driving fast down these little streets of Pomona, and they're tailing us. I'm trying to get on the phone with 911. My fingers are trying. And he said he was looking through his rearview mirror, and they're still throwing gang signs at us. And finally we got away. I mean, good luck. We didn't get shot. We didn't. Nothing bad happened. We finally got away. Police department took a while to even answer the phone, and by the time they did, by the time they did, we were already gone. So, Anyway, that's my story of getting chased by gangbangers. But if you're going to door knock with a partner.
Be safe. Yeah.
Be safe. Yeah.
Well, awesome. I appreciate you sharing, man. And thanks again for coming on. We'll make sure to link all the stuff to Omnidrip and all that kind of stuff as well when this goes out. But thank you guys for tuning in, listening, and we will see you next week. Thanks, guys.
See ya.